The Hebrew Bible, 5 books of Moses, Exodus, chapter 11. And the Lord said to Moses, Yet one more plague shall I bring upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. Afterward he will send you off from here. When he sends you off altogether, he will surely drive you out from here. Speak, pray in the hearing of the people, that every man borrow from his fellow man, and every woman from her fellow woman, ornaments of silver and ornaments of gold, and the Lord will grant the people favor in the eyes of the Egyptians. The man Moses too was very great in the land of Egypt, in the eyes of Pharaoh's servants, and in the eyes of the people. And Moses said, Thus said the Lord, Around midnight I am going out in the midst of Egypt, and every firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die. From the firstborn of Pharaoh sitting on his throne to the firstborn of the slave girl who is behind the millstones, and every firstborn of the beasts, and there shall be a great outcry in all the land of Egypt. The like of which there was, has not been, and the like of which there will not be again. But against all the Israelites no dog will snarl, from the man to beast, so that you may know how the Lord sets apart Egypt and Israel. And all these servants of yours shall come down to me and bow to me, saying, Go out, you and all the people that is at your feet. And afterward I will go out. And he went out from Pharaoh's presence in a flare of anger. And the Lord said to Moses, Pharaoh will not heed you, so that my portents may be multiplied in the land of Egypt. Moses and Aaron had done these portents before Pharaoh, and the Lord toughened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not send off the Israelites from his land. Chapter 12. And the Lord said to Moses and to Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month is for you, head of the months. It is the first for you of the months of the year. Speak to all the community of Israel, saying, On the 10th of this month, let every man take a lamb for his father's house, a lamb for a household. And should a household be too small to have a lamb, it must take together with his neighbor who is close to its house, in proportion to the persons. Each man according to what he eats shall take this portion of lamb. An unblemished lamb, a yearling male, you shall have. From the sheep or from the goats you may take it. And it shall be a thing to be kept by you until the 14th day of this month. And the whole congregation of the community of Israel shall slaughter it at twilight. And they shall take from the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and on the lintel, on the houses in which they will eat it. And they shall eat meat on this night, fire roasted with flat bread, on bitter herbs shall they eat it. Do not eat from it raw, nor in any way cooked in water, but fire roasted. Its head with its shanks and with its entrails, you shall leave nothing from it by morning. And what is left of it by morning in fire you shall burn. And those shall you eat it, your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is a Passover offering to the Lord, and I will cross through the land of Egypt on this night, and I will strike down every firstborn in the land of Egypt from man to beast, and from all the gods of Egypt I will exact retributions. I am the Lord. And the blood will be a sign for you upon the houses in which you are, and I will see the blood, and I will pass over you. And no scourge shall become a destroyer amongst you when I strike in the land of Egypt. And this day shall be a remembrance for you, and you shall celebrate it as a festival to the Lord through your generations, an everlasting statute. You shall celebrate it. 7 days shall you eat flat bread. The very first day you shall expunge leaven from your houses. For whosoever eats leavened bread, that person shall be cut off from Israel. From the first day to the 7th day, and on the first day a sacred convocation, and on the 7th day a sacred convocation you shall have. No test shall be done on them. Only what each person is to eat, that alone will be prepared for you. And you shall observe the flat bread. For on this very day I brought out your battalions from the land of Egypt. And you shall observe this day through your generations, an everlasting statute. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month in the evening, you shall eat flat bread until the 21st day in the evening. 7 days no leaven shall be found in your houses. For whosoever eats what is leavened, that person shall be cut off from the community of Israel, sojourner and native of the land alike. Nothing that is leavened shall you eat. In all your dwellings places you shall eat flat bread. And Moses called all the elders of Israel and said to them, Draw out and take yourselves sheep according to your clans, and slaughter Passover offering. And you shall take a bundle of hyssop, and you shall dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and you shall touch the blood that is in the basin to the lintel and the 2 doorposts. And as for you, none of you shall go out from the entrance of this house till morning, and the Lord shall cross through to scourge Egypt, and he shall see the blood on the lintel and on the 2 doorposts, and on the Lord shall pass over the entrance, and he shall not allow the destroyer to come into your houses to scorch. And you shall keep this thing as a statute for you and your sons everlasting. And so when you come to the land that the Lord will give you as he has spoken, you shall keep this service. And should your sons ask you, What is this service to you? You shall say, A Passover sacrifice to the Lord, who passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt when he scorched Egypt, and our households he rescued. And the people bowed and did obeisance. And the Israelites went and did as the Lord had charged Moses and Aaron. Those did they do. And it happened at midnight that the Lord struck down every firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh sitting on his throne to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and every firstborn of the beasts. And Pharaoh rose at night, he and all his servants and all Egypt, and there was a great outcry in Egypt, for there was no household in which there was no dead. And he called to Moses and to Aaron at night and said, Rise, go out from the midst of my people, both you and the Israelites, and go worship the Lord as you have spoken. Both your sheep and your cattle take as you have spoken, and go, and you shall bless me as well. And Egypt bore down on the people to hurry to send them off from the land, for they said, We are all dead men. And the people carried off their dough before it rose, their kneading pans wrapped in their cloaks on their shoulders. And the Israelites had done according to Moses' word, and they had asked of the Egyptian ornaments of silver and ornaments of gold and cloaks. And the Lord had granted the people favor in the eyes of the Egyptians, who lent to them, and they despoiled Egypt. And the Israelites journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, some 600,000 men of foot, besides the little ones, and a motley throng also went up with them, and sheep and cattle, very heavy livestock. And they baked the dough that they had brought out of Egypt in rounds of flat bread, for it had not leavened since they had driven out of Egypt, and could not tarry. And provisions too they could not make for themselves. And the settlement of the Israelites, which they had settled in Egypt, was 430 years. And it happened at the end of 430 years, and it happened on that very day, all the battalions of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt. It is a night of watch for the Lord, for his taking them out of the land of Egypt. This night is the Lord's watch for all the Israelites through their generations. And the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, This is the statute of the Passover offering. No foreigner shall eat of it. And every man's slave purchased with silver he shall circumcise, then shall he eat of it. A settler or hired worker shall not eat of it. In one house shall it be eaten. You shall not take out any meat from the house, and no bone shall you break in it. All the community of Israel do shall do. And should a sojourner sojourn with you and make a Passover offering to the Lord, he must circumcise every male of his. Then may he draw near to do it, and he shall be like a native of the land. But no uncircumcised man shall eat of it. One law shall there be for the native and for the sojourner who sojourns in your midst. And all the Israelites did as the Lord had charged Moses and Aaron, those they did do. And it happened on that day that very day that the Lord brought the Israelites out of the land of Egypt in their battalions. Chapter 13. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Consecrate unto me each firstborn, breach of each womb among the Israelites, in man and in beast. It is mine. And Moses said to the people, Remember this day on which you went out of Egypt from the house of slaves, for by strength of hand the Lord brought you out from here, and leavened stuff shall not be eaten. Today you are going out in the month of the new grain. And so when the Lord brings you to the land of the Canaanite and the Hittite and the Amorite and the Hivite and the Jebusite, which he swore to your fathers to give to you, a land flowing with milk and honey, you shall perform the service in this month. 7 days shall you eat flat bread. On the 7th day a festival to the Lord. Flat bread shall be eaten through the 7 days, and no leavened stuff of yours shall be seen, and no leavening of yours shall be seen in all your territory. And you shall tell your son on that day, saying, For the sake of what the Lord did for me when I went out of Egypt, and it shall be a sign for you on your hand, and a remembrance between your eyes, so that the Lord's teaching will be your mouth. For with a strong hand the Lord brought you out of Egypt. And you shall keep the statute at its fixed time year after year. And so when the Lord brings you to the land of the Canaanite, and as he swore to you and to your fathers, and gives it to you, you shall pass every womb breach to the Lord, and every breach of spawn of beasts that you will have, the males to the Lord. And every donkey's breach you shall redeem with a lamb, and should you not redeem it, you shall break its neck. And every human firstborn of your sons you shall redeem. And so your son ask you tomorrow, saying, What is this? You shall say to him, By strength of hand to the Lord brought us out of Egypt from the house of slaves. And it happened when Pharaoh was hard about sending us off, that the Lord killed every firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of man to the firstborn of beast. Therefore do I sacrifice to the Lord every womb breach of the male, and every firstborn of my sons I must redeem. And it shall be a sign on your hand and circles between your eyes, that through strength of hand the Lord brought us out of Egypt. And it happened when Pharaoh sent the people off, that God did not lead them by way out of the land of the Philistines, though it was close. For God thought, lest the people regret when they see battle and go back to Egypt. And God turned the people round by way of the wilderness of the Sea of Reeds. And the Israelites went up armed from the land of Egypt. And Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had solemnly made the sons of Israel swear, saying, God will surely single you out, and you shall take up my bones with you from here. And they journeyed from Succoth and encamped at Etham at the edge of the wilderness. And the Lord was going before them day by day in a pillar of cloud, to lead them on the way, and by night in a pillar of fire, to give them light to go by day and by night. The pillar of cloud would go not budge by day, nor the pillar of fire by night from before them. Chapter 14. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the Israelites, that they turn back and encamp before Pi-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, before Baal-zephon. Opposite it you shall camp by the sea. And Pharaoh had said of the Israelites, They are confounded in the land, the wilderness has closed round them. And I shall toughen Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them, that I may gain glory through Pharaoh and through all his force. And the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. And thus they did do. And it was told to the king of Egypt that the people had fled, and Pharaoh and his servants had a change of heart about the people. And they said, What is this we have done, that we sent off Israel from our service? And he harnessed his chariot, and his troops he took with him. And he took 600 picked chariots, and all the chariots of Egypt, and captains over it all. And the Lord toughened the heart of Pharaoh king of Egypt, and he pursued the Israelites going out with a high hand. And the Egyptians pursued them and overtook them and camped by the sea. All the horses of Pharaoh's chariots and his riders and his force at Pihahirot before Baal-zephon. And Pharaoh drew near, and the Israelites raised their eyes and looked. Egypt was advancing toward them, and they were very afraid. And the Israelites cried out to the Lord, and they said to Moses, "Was it for lack of graves in Egypt that you took us to die in the wilderness? What is this you have done to us to bring us out of Egypt? Isn't this the thing we spoke to you in Egypt, saying, 'Leave us alone that we may serve Egypt, for it is better for us to serve Egypt than for us to die in the wilderness?'" And Moses said to the people, "Do not be afraid. Take your station and see the Lord's deliverance that he will do for you today. For as you see the Egyptians today, you shall not see them again for all time. The Lord shall do battle for you, and you shall keep still." And the Lord said to Moses, "Why do you cry out to me? Speak to the Israelites that they journey onward. As for you, raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and split it apart, that the Israelites may come into the midst of the sea on dry land. As for me, look, I am about to toughen the heart of the Egyptians, that they come after them. And I shall gain glory through Pharaoh and through all his force, through his chariots and through his riders, and the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord when I gain glory through Pharaoh, through his chariots and through his riders." And the messenger of God that was going before the camp of Israel moved and went behind them, and the pillar of cloud moved from before and stood behind them. And it came between the camp of Egypt and the camp of Israel, and there was the cloud and the dark, and it lit up the night, and they did not draw near each other all night. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord led the sea with a mighty east wind all night, and he made the sea dry ground, and the waters were split apart, and the Israelites came into the sea on dry land. The waters walled to them on their right and on their left. And the Egyptians pursued and came after them, all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his riders, into the sea. And it happened in the morning watch that the Lord looked out over the camp of Egypt in a pillar of fire and cloud, and he panicked the camp of Egypt. And he took off the wheels of their chariots and drove them heavily. And Egypt said, "Let me flee before Israel, for the Lord does battle from them against Egypt." And the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, that the waters go back over the Egyptians, over their chariots, and over their riders." And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the sea went back toward morning to its full flow, with the Egyptians fleeing toward it. And the Lord shook out the Egyptians into the sea, and the waters came back and covered the chariots and the riders of all Pharaoh's force, who were coming after them in the sea. Not a single one of them remained. And the Israelites went on dry land in the midst of the sea. The waters walled to them on the right and on their left. And the Lord on that day delivered Israel from the hand of Egypt. And Israel saw Egypt dead on the shore of the sea. And Israel saw the great hand of the Lord, that the Lord had performed against Egypt. And the people feared the Lord, and they trusted in the Lord and in Moses his servant. Chapter 15. Then did Moses sing, and all the Israelites with him, this song to the Lord. And they said, saying, "Let me sing unto the Lord, for he surged, horse and its rider, he hurled into the sea. You let my strength and my power is Yah, and he became my deliverance. This is my God, I extol him. God of my fathers, I exalt him. The Lord is a man of war, the Lord is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his force he pitched into the sea, and the pick of his captains were drowned in the Red Sea. The depth did cover them over. Down they went into the deep like a stone. Your right hand, O Lord, is mighty in power. Your right hand, O Lord, smashes the enemy. In your great surging, you wreck those against you. You send forth your wrath, it consumes them like straw, and with the breath of your nostrils waters heaped up, streams stood up like a mound. The depth congealed in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I'll pursue, overtake, divide up the loot. My gullet will fill with them, I'll bear my sword, my hand despoiled them. You blew with your breath, the sea covered them over. They sank like lead in the mighty waters. Who is like you among the gods, O Lord? Who is like you, mighty in holiness? Fearsome in praise, worker of wonders. You stretched out your hand, earth swallowed them up. You led forth in your kindness this people that you redeemed. You guided them in your strength to your holy abode. Peoples heard, they quaked, trembling seized Philistia's dwellers. Then were the chieftains of Edom dismayed, the dusk of Moab shuddering seized them. All the dwellers of Canaan quailed, terror and fear did fall upon them. As your arm loomed big they were like a stone, till your people crossed over, O Lord, till the people you made yours crossed over. You'll bring them, you'll plant them on the mount of your estate, a firm place of your dwelling, your rod, O Lord, the sanctum, O sovereign. Your hands firmly founded, the Lord shall be king for all time. For Pharaoh had come with his chariots and his riders into the sea, and the Lord turned the waters of the sea back upon them. But the Israelites went on dry land in the midst of the sea, and Miriam the prophetess, Aaron's sister, took the timbrel in her hand, and all the women went out after her with timbrels and dances. And Miriam sang out to them, Sing to the Lord, he had surged, O surge, horse and its rider, he hurled them to the sea. And Moses made the Israelites journey onward from the sea of reeds, and they went out to the wilderness of Shur. And they went 3 days in the wilderness and did not find water. And they came to Marah and could not drink water from Marah, for it was bitter. Therefore is its name called Marah. And the people murmured against Moses, saying, What shall we drink? And he cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree, and he flung it into the water, and the water turned sweet. There did he set him a statute and law, and there did he test him. And he said, If you really heed the voice of the Lord your God, and do what is right in his eyes, and hearken to his commands, and keep all his statutes, all the sickness that I put upon Egypt, I will not put upon you, for I am the Lord your healer. And they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 date palms, and they encamped there by the water.